He was her unattainable campus crush. Now he's barging into her life, demanding to be her sugar daddy. A decadent buried longing unravels as a bankrupt dreamer and her sharp-tongued CEO bun factor dances between pride and desire. When shared nights blur with citrus-scented tension, will their sham arrangement spark a love that burns brighter than pride or destroy them both?
Ronnie looked at me and was about to say something. In the end, he gave up and kept quiet. "Let's go. I'll buy you barbecue," he said. At that moment, I thought Ronnie was a good friend. There was a meteor shower one Wednesday. I prepared a telescope and was about to invite Gilbert to join me, but he ended up accepting another girl's invitation. I was exasperated, for I was only 1 minute late and someone else beat me to it. Gilbert looked at me with a trace of panic in his eyes. I reckoned he had no idea why he was panicking either. He even tried explaining to me.
"That's my uncle's daughter. I couldn't refuse her invitation."
Finally, he pursed his lips and asked tentatively,
"If you want to see it with me, I'll reject her, okay?"
To be honest, I couldn't quite remember the details of that day after so many years. But I did remember how I ate excessively that day because I was in such a good mood. I was certain that Gilbert cared about me. For a moment, I thought that I was going to succeed. At present, the guy I had been pursuing back in my youthful days was offering to sponsor me. That was exciting, but ridiculously enough, I turned him down after a short moment of hesitation due to my dignity. That was exciting, but ridiculously enough, I turned him down after a short moment of hesitation due to my dignity. Gilbert was stunned, too. He probably perceived the reason I rejected him and changed the conditions.
"You can be my assistant too. I'll pay you $1,200 a month. You can use half of the money to pay off your debt until it is cleared."
Deal. I hurriedly agreed, for fear that he would go back on his word. Gilbert tousled my already messy hair.
"Cecilia, I miss you so much,"
he said. In a daze, I asked in a tiny voice, "By assistant, do you mean personal assistant?" Gilbert smiled.
"If you want to take advantage of me, then my answer is yes."
I would not have minded. "Then, let's start working from today onward." I need to be conscious as I was someone who pulled strings to get this job. I could not slack off, and the work from the boss had to be done well. Gilbert's car was not luxurious. He was not a person who kept a high profile, and he did not like the feeling of being coveted by others. Rather than showing off, he pursued comfort even more. However, despite that, when I was in the passenger seat, I still had the fantasy of being just like Cinderella, who was sitting in a pumpkin carriage. The sensation of sitting on a leather seat was so good. Moreover, its curves perfectly matched the lines of a person's back. I could not help but admire the originality of the design. When I thought that my hard work would only result in my boss changing to a new car the next year, I immediately wanted to break the wheel of capitalism in my mind. I wanted to make Gilbert's shockingly beautiful face twist with agony as well. Indeed, society really could change a person. When I was in school, I only thought about how to pursue the boy that I liked. Now, I had to consider that my entire closet was not enough to pay for a single garment he owned. I was ashamed of myself. After all, I did not want to walk into the company entrance with Gilbert. Even though I was a thick-skinned woman, I was surprisingly shy at certain times. I could not stand the inquiring gaze of others, especially when the spotlight was on me and Gilbert. I could not tolerate this. I was self-aware, and I completely understood that I did not have any talents, nor was I beautiful. Perhaps when I was in school, I could pretend that I was ignorant and give an excuse for it. However, now that I have entered society, I would be laughed at if I was still a poor observer. This reminded me of a conversation I had at university. A beautiful and rich girl once asked me, "Do you really think that you're good enough for Gilbert, Cecilia? Do you know who his ex-girlfriend was?" I was lying to myself at that time. If Gilbert liked me, then everything would have been fine. However, I ignored the possibility that Gilbert did not like me. Until now, I did not know the exact answer. The receptionist was a girl with a round face. She widened her eyes when she saw Gilbert and I come in together.
"This is my personal assistant, Cecilia Olsen. Ask Xenia from the HR department to help her with the registration." As for her desk, just arrange for it to be in my office.
Gilbert seemed to have something else to do as he kept looking at his watch after answering a phone call. In the end, he handed me over to the receptionist and went out in a hurry. I heard that Mr. Macall's girlfriend came back today. Girlfriend? The young woman had an envious look. I heard that it was someone that Mr. Macall liked when he was in school. She's finally returned to the country today. I frowned. It was no wonder he had been single for so many years. It turned out that the person he longed for had never changed. He had even said that he wanted to be my sugar daddy. I had not seen him for a long time, and now I really needed to look at him from a new perspective. Even Gilbert could be a scumbag. I did not have to wait long when I saw a woman in her early 30s come out to greet me. She was wearing elegant makeup and was smiling gently. It had to be Xenia Whitlock. Miss Olsen. I nodded. Yes, I'm the new assistant. Mr. Macall told me everything. It was obvious that my skills were slightly lower than hers when it came to flattery. Xenia took my hand and showed concern for my well-being. It was as if she was a sister who was not related to me by blood. You are indeed a specially recruited assistant. I can see that you're not an ordinary person. You're the only one who could make Mr. Macall instruct me personally. Others won't have the same treatment. I was ashamed. All my life, what I did best was slack off as I earned my money. I could get the best deal out of capitalism without giving much effort. As I was Gilbert's personal assistant, no one else assigned me tasks except him. However, he had been absent from the morning. Thus, I could only sit at my desk and twirl my pen around in boredom. At the same time, I tried to recall that first crush of his. Gilbert's first crush. As I grew older, my mind was getting rustier. I only remembered that the last name of his first crush was Zeno's. She had a pair of beautiful and coquettish eyes. She had fair skin. When she smiled, 2 shallow dimples appeared on her face. It was not just the men who would have found her beautiful, but even I would have found her to be extremely good-looking. They were a match made in heaven and were compatible with each other. Others could not enter Gilbert's office, and the warmth from the sun on a winter afternoon was too comforting. I had the urge to doze off, and the next thing I knew, I was already sleeping on the desk. When I woke up, a coat was put on me. Gilbert had his back facing me, and he was standing against the light. I was only able to see his broad back. After noticing that I was awake, he turned around. His eyes were full of fatigue.
Cecilia, I'll take you to see someone.
I had imagined the scene of meeting Gilbert's crush numerous times. After all, I was ignorant when I was young. Thus, I dreamed of standing next to Gilbert and asserting my dominance over Gilbert proudly as I met her. Now, I felt slightly awkward and so nervous that my palms were sweating. Gilbert saw through my embarrassment easily, but he did not say a word. He merely handed me some tissue. When we were about to reach the destination, I heard him chuckling lazily.
I remember that you used to like drinking water when you were nervous. You were able to drink 1 bottle at a time. What's the matter? Aren't you going to drink now?
I rolled my eyes and said, "Who knew that you're so stingy, Mr. Macall? You can't even put a bottle of mineral water in the car. Can't you see that I've already started to chew on my nails?" Gilbert curled his lips and said,
Yvonne isn't someone difficult to get along with.
Yvonne Zenos, so that was the name of his first crush. I rubbed my forehead. Do you know there's a situation when complex and difficult interrelationships exist?
What's the matter? Are you planning to become my current girlfriend?
Gilbert turned the steering wheel. The way that he asked the question so nonchalantly made my heart beat faster. I didn't expect him to pick up on the implied meaning of my words. However, he was absolutely right in some ways. If I were not his current girlfriend, no complex and difficult interrelationships would ever exist. I was slightly annoyed, and I replied to him angrily, "It's better for you to be single forever." Gilbert turned to look at me and said,
I've been single for 6 years. It seems like forever won't be that long.
I was taken aback. He was really celibate. Finally, we arrived at an ordinary residential area. I was slightly surprised. If memory served, even though Gilbert's first crush was not from a background as prominent as his, she was definitely not poor either. Why was she living here?